Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Music Room, where we talk about everything music, from drum corps to orchestra. I'm your host, Josiah.
And I'm your co-host Dylan.
Hey, and we have some awesome guests with us today.
We sure do. Before we get there, though, we do have two big announcements for you guys. So the first is that the music room is officially on YouTube now, so you can come check us out on YouTube. Um, just look up the Music Room podcast, and it'll pop up. We already have our previous two episodes uploaded there already, and you'll be able to find future episodes like this one on there as well. And then our second big announcement is that we now have merch. So you can visit the link through Redbubble. We'll have it posted on our pages. But yeah, you can buy merch from us. We have t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, stickers, whatever you possibly could want. um we might as well start introducing our guests. So the first guest we have, he's a snare drummer. He's a Mooresville High School and Western Carolina University alumni. He has a degree in music with a concentration in commercial music and audio production. He's played with some of the greatest lines in the marching arts, including Spirit of Atlanta in 2016, Carolina Crown from 2017 to 2019, and WCU from 2015 to 2019. And his name would be Dakota Groves.
Good afternoon, friends.
And for our second guest, we have yet again another bass drummer, also coming from Mooresville High School and Western Carolina. He's played with Civitas Independent from 2018 to 2020 and marched bass 2 with Spirit of Atlanta in 2019, Mr. CJ Noblezada.
What's up, guys?
Great. Glad to have you guys. So knowing y'all came from Mooresville High School around the same time, and y'all have branched out from WCU to play with all these great groups. So over time, how has it been watching each other grow, like not only as musicians, but as people as well?
Well, I'll go ahead and start. I guess like going into high school, I didn't really know any of the upperclassmen. I guess you wouldn't consider Dakota upperclassman at the time. He was a sophomore when I was a freshman. So we were both still, fairly new to the activity. But I don't know, there's just something about this connection that we had. He was one of the end snare drums and I was bass 1 at the time. So we had a lot of, dots next to each other. And it's funny, the way that we met, we, he's probably gonna laugh at this, but we were setting dots one day and we just saw these bees flying around in the air. And then I randomly heard something hit my drum. So every now and then he would mess with me and hit my drum and I'd look over and be like, is there a bee or something? And so that's just the running joke. But
And they went,
yeah, just a little but after our first year, well, my first year in marching band, I went to Fusion Percussion, and he joined Fusion Percussion in 2014. And then I think that's when most of our friendship solidified, because we weren't just doing band through high school. That was our first time branching out into something new other than the stereotypical high school band. But fast forward to Western, again, he was a year ahead of me. So I think that's one of the biggest inspirations that I had from him was when he went to Western. He, after the first audition, he was put on Purple Line, but he was so determined to make that Gold Line. And he would come home between auditions and stuff, and he would just be at the park practicing and running just to get in shape and everything. And I was like, man, this, he's really dedicated to this. He is hardcore.
Thanks, babe.
And he was put on the gold snare line as a freshman, and I think that was something for me. I was like wow, if my best friend can do that, that really inspires me to do the same. So I auditioned for the Western bass line, and same thing. I was put on a purple line after the first audition, and I didn't realize like how much of a big commitment was. I honestly thought at first that Dakota was exaggerating everything, but once I experienced it firsthand, I was like, wow, this is really hardcore. Like if I really want to do this, I'm gonna have to push myself, just as hard as Dakota did. So, and that's exactly what I did. But even just after Western, he continued to be an inspiration, just showing that, someone in a small town, if their, heart is set on something and they do everything they can to make sure they get what they want, then they can make it happen. And so like first that happened with Spirit. Like I didn't know that anyone in, small town Mooresville, could be marching drum corps. But then, watching him on tour with Spirit, that was, a crazy thing to see. And then watching him make Carolina Crown, like, wow. Like I was like, I like still to this day, it just amazes me, like seeing where we started, in a high school marching band together, and then seeing my best friend, grow into, one of the top drum corps, in the world. Like that's just amazing to me. And, I think that's really where our friendship has like solidified, is just, us pushing each other, like, I don't know. Sorry. I'm like, it's just, I'm at a loss for words, because, every time I think about it, I'm just like, literally, anybody can accomplish their goals, if they set their mind to it. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. So I don't know, Dakota, if you want to add on to that.
It was a grind, my dude.
It was a grind.
Yeah, no, that's really great to hear. Because I definitely know Mooresville. I've been up there more than a couple of times, and it's insane to see how, like, no matter what your circumstance is just putting in the work and the dedication into the activity. I mean, you can accomplish literally anything.
That was an awesome answer, man. So, how do you think like music has impacted your personal lives?
A lot. It's impacted my life a lot. Is this volume okay, by the way?
Yeah, no, you're all good.
Cool. Sorry, I had to ask.
That's all good.
I was actually originally an electrical engineering major at Western, but I found that I wasn't very passionate about it. I didn't really study a whole lot. I spent more time practicing on my practice pad for like marching band and stuff. Started to not do so hot. And then I ended up taking a semester off of school. And at that point, I kind of just like kind of decided that music was probably where I should be, instead of, trying to do something different. I loved like the math and the science in electrical engineering, but it was just a little too much for me. But now I'm in audio production, and it's incorporating all those elements of music and electrical engineering, and I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds. But I've been playing guitar and piano and drum set, snare drum all the time. Like if you have an instrument lying around your house, there is a 90% chance that I will walk over and pick it up.
So CJ, what about you? How has music impacted you in your personal life?
Well, honestly, this whole band thing didn't just start because I chose to do band in high school. Like just growing up, my family was very passionate about the arts. So like my sister was a art education major at App State. My other older sister was a musical theater major at Peace College. So growing up, like music and art basically was just a big part of my life. And then I'm gonna kind of like relate this to how me and Dakota became friends. So I grew up listening to like bands like, probably the one band that I would talk about is Linkin Park. My dad actually would like play that in the car, just whenever we were just driving around. So like Linkin Park was like that one band that like always sticks with me. And like anytime I hear a Linkin Park song, like I'll know all the words to it. But like I didn't have access to, discovering new music until probably about 5th grade when our schools transitioned to, digital learning. They gave us the laptops to use for our courses and stuff like that. So that's when I, started discovering, new music. And that's when I, rediscovered Linkin Park. I, was like, just like listening to, random songs, and I was like, this sounds familiar. And then like I showed it to my dad, and, he was like, yeah, that's Linkin Park. Like that's the music that I, played when you're, a little kid in the car. And so, I got obsessed with that, and then got to high school. And then of course, when me and Dakota were doing fusion, we would carpool together and, just listen to Linkin Park, And so like, even though like drumming is just a big part of my life, I think the journey for music started, with those bands, because originally before I got into bass drumming, I was, very heavy on learning drum set. Like that was, I was passionate about drum set the same way I was bass drum. And, just recently I got myself a new drum set and, started picking it back up again. So that's kind of where my journey with music started and how it's changed my life. And I don't think without music, I would have made, I wouldn't have made any of the friends that I have today. Like a lot of the friends that I have, are from band or from, places, playing open mics with my sister growing up. There's people that I meet, through, musical related stuff. Like those are all the people that I know in my life. So.
Yeah, that's really great. Not to get too off topic, but shout out to Curtis. I've always known what Linkin Park was, but like I never like really delved deep into their music.
Mm-hmm.
But my friend Curtis is like a diehard fan for Linkin Park, and he started showing me some of their songs, and now I'm like really into them. But a very funny story. My brother actually probably won't be too happy I'm sharing this, but I don't think he cares. But the way I got into music is that my dad would always show me like classic rock and all these different genres of music, and my brother Ken, shout out to him. He's the one who really introduced me to music. So while he was in high school, his friend had a drum set left at our house because they would, jam sometimes. One night, I think we were having a family party, and he was a little drunk. And I was like, can you show me how to, play drum set? And he was like, if you fetch me another beer, I will. So I did. And he taught me, basic 4/4 rock beat. And then eventually I took that upon myself, and I started actually learning more about drum set. And then eventually, and this was in the 3rd grade too. And then eventually I got into middle school, and then I chose to play trumpet because for some reason I thought, oh, it looks easy, I can try to play this. And then I'd continue to play drum set, but I'd also play brass. And then I got to high school and switched to baritone. And James Smallwood, shout out to him as well. He was my band director in high school at Olympic. Yeah. And I'd always I don't want to say necessarily complain, but I'd always, bug him about, hey, let me on drumline, man, please. And then eventually, like 10th grade, he was like, all right, you play baritone this year, I'll let you try out for drumline. And then I tried out my junior year, got bass drum, and then the next year I got snare. And that really invoked my love for the marching arts, because during our band camp after lunch, they would show us a video clip of DCI. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to do that one day, because that just seems really awesome. And then eventually I was able to delve within, the actual percussion aspect of it, because I didn't understand it much. And being able to actually see these dudes live perform, because me and my friend Curtis, we go to world championships every single year. So being able to see you guys, perform on the field and really let your heart out through the show is just amazing to watch. It's really great.
Yeah, I think that's been one of my biggest things, relating to the marching arts. Like I'm not like I play drums and like I am very interested in music, but the theory part, really confuses me. I can't, concentrate on, certain things like that. But I think the reason why I love drums so much is because it's an instrument that it's very easy to, perform. Um, you're not covered by, a bell, covering your face or anything like that. So you can really, express how you feel when you're playing the drums. And so that's why, you know, that's why I enjoy drumming so much. Because whether it be on a field or on a stage, the drummer is always the person that, you can look at and you can see like their full, performance aspect, as opposed to, a brass player, where their face is being covered up, all they can perform with really is, their eyes and their body. So, props to you, like for, wanting to go out for drumline, because I feel like a lot of people, they want that performance aspect. But, some programs just, they're very, you stick to this one instrument. But I know like a lot of the, groups in California, they're very diverse, where like they like want their students to be, as musicians. So like looking at a lot of people from California, they play multiple instruments, and that's why those groups are like the top groups, is because if it's something that they're passionate about, then go for it.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you. So obviously y'all have drum corps experience, and a lot of people are kind of like, oh, I'd love to do drum corps, but I just don't think I'd be able to make it, or I have a different time commitment or something like that. So I mean, what made you guys really want to say, hey, this is something I really want to do, and I'm willing to work however hard I need to be able to do this? And then what was your experience at your first audition for drum corps? Because a lot of people get really nervous about that, and I think it's really important for veterans and alumni to really talk about what it's like to audition. That way, people are better prepared and can actually work on the right things to make sure that their audition goes well.
I didn't know what drum corps was until I watched the Blue Devils rehearse at our high school in 2012. That blew my mind. They were so loud, and it was so different just to see like just how clean they were, visually and musically. I'd never seen anything like it. That was only like my first year doing marching band, and so I didn't know what DCI was at the time. My friends had invited me to come to the Night Beat drum corps show in 2012. They had like saved a ticket, and they had an extra one, and so I went with them, and it was so cool. And then I started diving into YouTube, started watching these like lot videos online. Thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then most of the time when people get to that point, they start getting into their little cringy obsessive phase. We all go through it. But
Oh God.
yeah, we all hate those, but we get through it. What was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question was, how was your experience at your first audition for drum corps?
That's right. So my first drum corps audition was for Carolina Crown's 2016 season. So this was after the Inferno year, and it was at Clover High School in South Carolina. So it was way different than anything I'd ever experienced before. You show up, with like your pad sticks, your backpack, your like suitcase with like a pair of clothes and like a sleeping bag and pillow, and whatnot. And there's just so many people like in your age group that you've never seen before, all playing out of the audition packet, the same stuff that you learned, and it's It's very eye-opening because, you know, when you're practicing stuff by yourself, you're like, all right, they're just gonna watch me play, and then you get there and you see just how many people there are, and it's like, oh man, they're gonna watch all of these guys play. How am I gonna stand out? What's gonna make me look different than everyone else? So it was really nerve-wracking just going in there, especially with it being my first time, because you don't know exactly how to separate yourself from the rest of the group. So like, you know, my first audition played, you know, like a rudiment sheet and some like spree for Tom Oxt, and he was like, yeah man, like good stuff, your rhythms were really good. I was like, I think your right hand was a little too tense, and then he said something about one thing that would probably, you know, impact my chances of making it was my experience, because I had, you know, only done 1 year of college band and some, like, you know, high school indoor and high school marching band. And so he said that experience is a huge factor with auditions. And so I was like, okay, yeah. And then, you know, get back into the room, and I got put on a pad for like, you know, majority of the camp. That's just how it goes sometimes. You know, they're looking for the best of the best. And you know, sometimes you're just not there yet. Sometimes there's people that have more experience or they're more prepared than you are, and that's just reality. So what I did was I decided to go to a spirit camp the next month, and then that's when I made Spirit. And so, you know, I marched that season with Spirit, and I got the experience that I needed. Excuse me. And it was great, and I loved it. But there was a part of me that wanted to kind of, I guess, redeem myself for that audition that I didn't make it. There was a part of me that wanted to go back and just do better. You know, so I went to the 2017 audition, and I was like, you know, on the cusp of not making it. I really had to work hard, and it wasn't until I started doing like a video assignment where I actually started to get recognized. But yeah, first camp experience is really scary. It's very intimidating. So you just kind of have to be prepared and only worry about yourself, because, you know, there's only so much that you can do.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a great thing you added on there about the experience portion, because a lot of people will try out for a major core, and you know they'll be prepared, but it's because they don't have the experience. And you know, I think it's important to really support these smaller cores, like for like our hometown, you know, Carolina Gold, or doing another open class core. And you know, taking rejection as not a sign of, oh, you're not good enough and that you can't do this, but taking it as, okay, so I did all of this right, but I do need to improve these things, so let me take this year that I have and, you know, use it to my advantage to be able to get better, and you know, make sure I have all of my stuff prepared for next season, so that way when I try out I have a better chance of making it.
Yeah. Uh, so going off of Dylan's drum corps question, how do you think drum corps has like advanced from, let's say, 5 years ago to now?
I think a lot has changed, you know, just in the past, year, so to speak. Um, but my first drum corps experience, I think, was 2013. The same way that Dakota experienced the Blue Devils, they came to Mooresville to rehearse while they were on tour. Um, but just comparing how they were then to how they are now, it's, this is what I'm very passionate about. And like I said it before, in the previous question, is like, I'm all about performance. And I think that that's kind of where drum corps has taken, they've taken the performance route. So, they are very flashy, but at the same time, they're playing stuff that, people couldn't have played, 10 years ago or whatever. Like, they're really changing the game. They're doing everything, to, you know, raise the standards of this activity. So, you know, just from, you know, how I experienced them in 2013 to now, it's just crazy how it's changed. And then like you have groups like, you know, Bluecoats. I think it was a shocker to everyone the year, I think it was Downside Up. It was a shocker to everyone when they had the uniform change. But you know, as all things, like, you know, you can't keep everything the same all the time, because then it just becomes stagnant, and then, you know, people lose interest in the activity. And I think that was, you know, that was the major turning point, was when Bluecoats did with Downside Up, is you know, it was the uniform change, and then like the music style. You know, it wasn't all just, you know, like classical pieces that were rewritten for drum corps. Like they were using, you know, Great Gig in the Sky, you know, like modern, so to say, music, you know, arranged for, you know, drum corps. So it's really, you know, I think now it's more about the performance, you know, because I feel like, you know, if you're just arranging music, you know, that has been played before, you know, there's nothing innovative about it. So I feel like, you know, within the past, you know, 5, you know, 10 years, you know, even 2 years, you know, we've seen, you know, major changes in the activity, you know, as far as the performance, you know, just the overall appearance of drum corps, and, you know, the music style, and, you know, just, you know, there's obviously a lot more electronics too. And then you have like, you know, your old school people, they say like, oh, well, you know, electronics isn't real music or anything like that. But, you know, seeing the way, you know, they utilize electronics, like it is, you know, it is musical, and it is very hard. You know, Spirit was very heavy on electronics in 2019. If you remember the show Neon Underground, that show was a pain to clean, because, you know, you have your speakers on one side of the field playing something, and, you know, for it to match up with, you know, the back corner of the field, you know, we would have to be playing, you know, like half a count early for it to reach the, you know, the stands at the same time. So, you know, to me, that's even harder than just, you know, playing music with the rest of the corps. You know, that's something that has really changed the activity, is, you know, doing stuff like that, you know, almost seems impossible, but you're making it work. And then that's really what's changing the activity, is, you know, all those innovations.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you. And especially with electronics, like, you know, you hear all these dudes from the 70s and 80s being like, you know, back in my day, we had to play loud without miking horns and all this stuff. But like, even besides that, like, I mean, electronics was gonna eventually be a part of it, especially with all the innovation within, you know, sound engineering and, you know, samples and stuff. Like, and hearing the music evolve, like I remember in 2015 with the Cavaliers, their show Game On, they used I forgot the name of it, but the opener was, you know, it fit the show. And then seeing Crown play it in 2018 as their opener, it was very interesting to see how they adapted the actual music itself to fit their needs within, you know, general effect and matching the theme of the show.
Yeah, dude, I honestly, I really have to like give it to like all the like audio engineers, you know, in the drum corps, because like that's a very hard, you know, that's a very hard job to make, you know, electronics fit the sound of the corps. Because I know there were a few times like during the 2019 season, like we would have, you know, voiceovers or, you know, samples that, you know, they sound good on, you know, a program, but then when you play them in real life, it just doesn't sound how you want it to. And so, you know, the audio engineers, they would, you know, change things up, you know, mid-season to make it fit better, you know, in person. So like we would go, you know, an entire week having different samples playing every single day just to find the right one. But yeah, it is a hard, thing to master, in this activity, because, I mean, you've probably seen it at like, concerts, like they have like the sound booth, and, you have to, make sure everything sounds, good live, as, comparable to like an album. So, I think drum corps is starting to go that route where it's, it's not, I mean, it is competitive, but at the same time, like they're trying to, create quality live performance music. And so like, that's really, really cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, with doing drum corps, there's obviously the spring training aspect of it, and then you go into tour after, your home show, or, whatever you end up doing. So obviously a lot can happen during a drum corps season, whether it be in spring training or the tour section. So for both of you, what was one thing during the drum corps season that you didn't expect to like, but ended up, loving it over time of being within the season? And then what was one thing, you didn't expect to dislike, but then ended up, it was just like, all right, enough of this already.
I didn't really expect to like Texas Tour that much. That was going to be the worst thing ever. Thought it was going to be an ungodly experience, but it was, and it was fun. So I thought it was going to be miserable, and I would hate it, but it was just miserable, and I enjoyed it.
And shout out to Buc-ee's for
and just like the San Antonio free day, so fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You get all the corps stopping in one mall. They're all congregated in one area. It was just a really fun free day because you get to see all your friends that are marching other corps.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, CJ? What was one thing you didn't expect to like but ended up liking, and then another thing where you're like, all right, I don't want to deal with this?
That's hard. Honestly, just like, that's really hard because like I mean, it's been what, a year now. Well, I wasn't expecting really to like, okay, this is gonna sound weird, but like showering with other people is not as bad as you think it is. I think a lot of the a lot of people have that fear going into drum corps. It's like, oh, I have to shower in front of other people, like, and then they wait till, like the end of the night while everyone's done showering to go and, shower by themselves. But, everyone's in there to, do their business, and get out. But, everyone sings in the shower. Come on. So
I don't. Those hornline kids like to sing their sea shanties in the national anthem.
That though, yeah, that's not cool. If you're
Halo theme, like,
yo, that's funny though. That's funny. The Halo theme in the shower is so funny. But I mean, there's just things that like in the moment you don't really like it, but after the end of the season, like you realize it's not that bad. So I mean, like again, like Texas tour, like I thought it was gonna be dreadful just because Texas is just hot, but everywhere that you go, on some like on a summer tour, it's gonna be hot. So once you push past that, that uncomfortable feeling of rehearsing in the sun, it's really not that bad. You get used to it. So I mean, like honestly, like the one tip that I would have for people considering drum corps or whatever is just to try to ignore little things like that. When you're in the situation of like being in a drum corps, it's more important to focus on your playing than to have a cool breeze come by or whatever. Because at the end of the day, everyone in the drum corps is suffering of the same heat. So the more you let it bug you, the more it's going to get the best of you, and then you're not going to rehearse your best, you're not going to perform your best. So you know, that's the one thing that I thought I would hate, but ended up not being as bad. You know, really, really after spring training, like I got over it.
Yeah. All right. So CJ, you actually kind of answered my next question. But what are some tips that you would give to someone that's auditioning, like for drum corps for their first time?
Um, Auditioning, I would say go in with confidence. That was my big thing. Um, I kind of had the same audition experience as Dakota. My first audition was Carolina Crown for 2019. I just went to their November camp, but I didn't really know the packet all that well. I had looked at it a few days before, but from not knowing it, I just wasn't as confident, going into the audition. And, then they send you, kind of like a outline of, where you lie compared to everyone else, in the audition process, and like what you can work on, what you can, show up prepared with next time. But I didn't feel like I was ready for that. And so that's why I chose to go to Spirit. And I actually had planned on auditioning for Spirit in 2018, but on my way down there, I got in a car accident. So that's why 2018 didn't happen. But I showed up to 2019, and most of the exercises were the same from 2018. So, just having that, prior knowledge of the packet, I was a little bit more confident going into it. I didn't know everything front to back, but, just knowing it a little bit better made me more confident. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to, try to, basically show off. This doesn't work for everybody, but, if you are, that type of person, I'm big on performance. So, for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to perform what I know the best. And, I'm going to show that I know it and show that I'm confident in it. So and I think that's a big thing. If you can, show that you're confident in what you're playing, then, you will be successful. Because, if you're confident in what you're playing, then there's nothing else you need to learn. You just need to, fine tune everything, clean it up a little bit, and that's all you really need to worry about. But that's probably the first thing, is just like knowing your material, and then after you learn your material, then go in with confidence, because really they're looking for people who can adapt. So if you're confident in what you're playing, and then you can take those those points that they give you for like like little cleaning tips or whatever, then you'll be good to go. Like there's nothing really to be like nervous about unless you don't know your packet.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, I think being prepared is probably one of the most important things to have down before you even attempt to audition for any group.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to take a short ad break, and we will be back with Dakota and CJ. Hello. It's your boy Dill Pickle letting you know that this episode is sponsored by Anchor. Anchor is a free platform for podcast creation. It contains tools that you can use to record episodes, edit and arrange them, publish them to listening platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and even monetize your freaking content. Whoa! Anchor makes this podcast possible and allows us to distribute it out to all of you beautiful people. So you can go to anchor.fm to sign up today. Anchor, the easiest way to start a podcast. And we are back with Dakota and CJ. So this part, we usually ask this question for our guests, but so first one is, what is your favorite corps that you haven't marched and why?
For me, it's Blue Devils. And we were just talking about this during intermission, but it's because I think that they do visual way more efficiently and just overall way better than every other corps. Because honestly, no matter where you go, you're gonna get, the music chops. You're gonna get like just the drum chops in general. But I think Blue Devils just they handle visual responsibilities so much better than most of the other corps out there. They're just so clean, and I think they also just do a good job making sure that the members are in their most comfortable, positions that they can be. If they had a long bus ride, they'll give them a little bit more time to sleep, and it's just like small stuff like that. Because honestly, if your head's not in it for a rehearsal, then uh, your whole rehearsal you might as well just not even have it. That's just what I think.
Yeah. What about you, CJ?
That's kind of hard. I'd probably say Cavies,
Oh,
Cavaliers. They just in the recent years they've had a good balance of, you know, being innovative but keeping their traditions. I think that's you know, a big thing that like, groups are starting to lose is their traditions. So like a group just like it doesn't feel the same, and so like I don't know. Like I want to I want to be able to like look at a group and like still be able to compare them to, 20 years before or whatever. And I feel like, Cabbies is just one of those groups that like you look at and you're like, that's Cabbies. And I don't know, maybe it's just because, it's an all guy corps. So like you can tell Cabbies, now and then also compare it to like, 20 years ago or whatever. But I don't know. I really like, the direction that they're heading in right now.
yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree with you. Because I remember watching their 2016 show and I was like, yeah, it's a good show. It's just, it's classic Cavaliers, but like over the past like three shows, it's very drastically, and I'm really enjoying the direction they're taking. I think a really underrated show that people don't really like to talk about a lot was 2018. Like
So that was, which one was that?
that was on Creativity and Madness, I believe so.
That was a good show.
Yeah.
That was a really good show. I remember watching that one. We like live streamed it at Mooresville. That was like my first time like seeing like the full show. I wasn't really, deep into drum corps that year. I guess because like that was kind of the first year that I like wasn't, marching, fall or summer. I was like just teaching. So like I don't know, I was just like really focused on, like teaching drumline or whatever. So like I didn't really like, search for like, what other groups were doing at the time. But I do remember seeing that show when they live streamed it, and like I thought it was really, really cool.
Still haven't seen that show. I've only seen it from like the back of the field.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually a funny thing I'm going to point out before we continue on is I don't know if there's a finals video of it on YouTube, but if you're able to find a copy, watch around where the like first movement / opener ends and before they go into the ballad. If you look where the bases are circling one of the props, and this was something I saw live because I was in the arena and I almost made it to my seat, but I didn't. So I had to watch it from a side view. And the bases were circling around this black box. And I don't remember if it was base 1 or base 2, but they tripped over one of the tarps and fell on their back. And the quickness of the recovery was just insane. Like they fell down on their backs over the tarp, and then the baseline was moving like up until like the upper middle of the field, and he just ran and just somehow still made his dot in time. And I was like, oh my god, that's insane.
Yeah, I
Their
do.
drumline is so
I do
good
remember
that
seeing that. I think I do remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
Wait, 2018 was the Mega Laser year, right?
I think so. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, it had to have been. Those wow, that was 2 years ago. I can't even remember what year it is right now. Dude, all of this Corona stuff is like messing with my like internal clock.
Yeah. So you answered the favorite core, right? So if you could march any show that you didn't march, what show would it be and why?
Hold, please. I'm not sure. Cue the elevator music.
Awesome, we have that.
Yeah, we have that. Don't worry. Well, I'll answer it. And I'll have Josiah answer it, and then y'all can give us an answer if you have one. But if I had to choose a show, any show to march at, for drum corps, that is a good question. I'd probably say either Crown 2018, because that was the music in there was just so good. It was so good. Or Blue Devils 2018. A lot of people don't talk about that show, but like the music in there is just so good. And I honestly thought it was better than Metamorph because, I mean, Metamorph was a good show. I feel like it's kind of overhyped, but like taking the concept of, all right, let's take this painting and let's give all the characters backstories and let's all combine them into this one drum corps show. Like the music they picked was phenomenal. That snare break near the end of the show is probably one of the hardest and cleanest snare breaks I have ever heard in my entire life within drum corps history.
It was very difficult, and they pulled it off really well. I think for me, it took me a second to think about it, but I think my number one choice would be Crown 2016, Relentless, and Blue Devils 2012, Cabaret Voltaire.
Yeah, both of those are just amazing shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it'd either have to be Cavaliers 2018 or 2019, because in 2019, that pit feature was insane. Like with them moving the marimba around and stuff, and like playing backwards, I found that so interesting. And then 2018, I think wasn't that the year with the marching xylophones?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was cool. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah. The pit music for Cavies 2018 also was really, really good.
Oh yeah, they always have it great for an ensemble.
What about you, CJ?
I think I have two.
That's fine.
Probably Blue Devils 2012 Cabaret Voltaire. That's definitely a really good show. But I think as far as being on a baseline, I would have to go with Vanguard 2015. That baseline was just ridiculous. And like just watching some of the stuff that they played that year, it just, I don't know, it makes me jealous.
Really wasn't
that one.
Wasn't that a Force of Nature, I believe? I could be wrong.
No, it was Spark of Invention.
Spark of Invention. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good show.
Yeah, it really was.
That was Robert Wassum and Michael Swain's Age Out year. Those are the top two bases from Infinity.
Yeah. Jeez. Also Infinity, dude. Like, people like to say they're overhyped. I don't think so whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
They're insanely talented. But yeah. So Dakota, I have a question about you, and we actually did touch on this earlier, but you were originally an electrical engineer, and then you switched over to audio production and stuff. Obviously, you said it really wasn't that interesting, and you're glad you're switched. But speaking of Joseph Noah, he's been releasing a lot of music. So, do you think we'll ever see y'all's talents combine and make a banger track for the world to hear?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I just need to. There'll be a time for it, sometime in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And something that I thought was really great for Joseph Noah was hearing them make a song for a drum corps, well, not a drum corps, but an indoor percussion show, and being able to actually perform it, I thought that was such a great addition. Like being able to utilize all of your members' talents and focus it into one show.
Their French show is so cool. One of my favorite indoor shows because they really immerse you into a different atmosphere. And I really loved that about the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially the virtual drum bugle corps thing. That was
Oh, yeah.
insane. Rapping over a ballad. That was cool. I enjoyed that. So CJ, how has Civitas evolved like over your time being there?
Gosh, it's crazy. It's been a roller coaster for sure. So my first year at Civitas was very rough. Not rough as in, I didn't enjoy being there. But there are just, logistical things that, didn't quite work in everyone's favor. Like I don't think we got our closer until maybe like 3 weeks before CB champs.
Oh, geez.
Mm.
So it wasn't like, it wasn't the best the show could have been. There was a lot more to the show that like we were expecting. And it just didn't really go the way we planned really. But, we did everything that we could, perform it to the best of our ability. But our fourth bass actually, he ended up getting a concussion the week before CB champs. So
Dang.
actually, no, he got a concussion the week before premiere and
Oh,
then got another concussion the week before CB champs.
Oh my god.
wow.
So having the full baseline together was, very difficult because like he needed that recovery time, from the time it happened, up until when he was he was able to march again. And then, it happened again. So, he had to have that recovery time. So it was a little bit rough, being able to get, the whole baseline together, but, it somehow worked its way out. We were definitely a really tight knit baseline that year though. Like I still talk to the four of them, at least, once every other week. Like we'll send each other something in like our Snapchat group or like in our group chat. So that's how that year was. And then we did give like feedback like on how that season was and like what could improve, what we could expect from the next year moving on. And that was 2019. So that would have been the year that we did Mended.
Yeah.
And I think Mended was the, kind of the turning point
Yeah, for
for
sure.
Civitas. We did a lot of stuff that year that we didn't think was possible. And just going back and watching that show, it's just crazy how, how far we came that year. Like I was a little bit nervous for that year starting because, previous years Civitas has had, pretty good vet retention. But that year we were definitely outnumbered, rookies to vets. So it was a little, it made me a little bit nervous, how the season would go. Like I didn't really, I didn't know what to expect from the season, but like the communication between the staff and the leaders was really good that year. And so we wanted to make sure like everyone was on the same page, like what our goals were. And like, I think that's the year that, Civitas kind of solidified like what the standards are for this group from now on. And so I think that's why that year was so successful. And then, fast forward to this previous season, I was actually way more nervous than I was for
2019 because originally I was gonna be the only vet returning on the battery, out of everybody. I showed up to an audition camp and we only had 4 people come out for bass drum. And so like I was just like, well, where are we gonna find other people? Like, are we even gonna have enough people to like have a full battery? But we just continue with the audition process. We kind of extended it a little bit just to make sure that everyone was on the same page about like what the expectations were with so many newer people and very little vets. Like we need to like make sure that like the standards were like set and clear, and so like we picked people based off of that. And then I was able to talk Reagan and Logan into coming back, and and then later on we had Cameron come back for the cymbal line. And I think at that point we had enough vets to like keep everyone motivated as to like what our goals were for the season. And like it's just a shame that like we didn't get to finish out the season, because I saw so much potential in that show. Like the amount of progress that we made from auditions in October all the way to our last performance is like, it's more than I have ever seen in all of my 3 years being at Civitas. And so that's kind of like my journey with Civitas is like it's a good group to go to, like for anyone like looking to start into like marching indoor. Like they're going in a very good direction right now.
For sure. I want to touch on Mended for a second because Chris, which you know him, rock player.
Yeah, Chris.
He was my shout out to Chris Gamble. Love you, bro. But he actually taught me at Olympic High School all 4 years I was there. And my junior year was 2019, which was the year Mended was the show. And seeing him at Seaweed Champs, like performing his heart out, like it gave me a really new like connection with Civitas, because I always remember, being in Seaweed and watching Civitas and Revelation and being like, wow, these are really good groups. Like they're really cool. And then seeing Mended, I was just completely blown away. And especially having that emotional connection with Chris, and because I've never seen him perform. He graduated a year before I came into high school, and being able to see him like in his prime performing like really made me happy for him. And then being able to actually perform with him the next year was for sure insane.
Dude,
and
sorry.
You're good. Go ahead.
I will say that Mended was a very emotional show for a lot of us. Because I mean, like you just look at it from the outside, it's based off of the Japanese tradition of kintsugi, which is mending, broken pots or vases with gold. And so, as a result, it makes, the overall thing, look more beautiful and like show like the imperfections actually make it more beautiful. So I think after like learning like the true meaning of the show, it's like we all go through, hard times in our life, but, this activity, like our friends, things that we're passionate about, you look at the bigger picture and you look at your life and you're like, wow, like, I have all these great things to be, grateful for, my life is actually beautiful. And so for me personally, like Mended is always going to have a special place in my heart, because that year in particularly, I was going through a very rough time. I was going through a breakup with someone I had been dating for almost 3 years. And then later on that year, my grandma passed away, who I was very close with. So it was a very rough time for me. And, I looked forward to going to Civitas every weekend because, that was my group of people that like, could be there for me during like my hard times.
and comparing how my life was to the overall theme of the show, like that's what made me able to perform that show to the fullest. Like I was able to use the emotions that I was feeling in real life and express them through my performance. And I don't think I could do that with any other show with that in that particular time. Like it was kind of just like the perfect show for like the right time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that show for sure was my inspiration to join Civitas, because I've always been a fan of Civitas. And then our indoor program my senior year fell apart because we had a new director. And I was talking to Chris. He was like, "Yeah, you should audition for Civitas." And I wasn't expecting to get in, honestly. So I went in, I practiced the music on the packet, and I went in expecting either to get cut or maybe getting a rack part. And then somehow I ended up on drum set, and it was honestly the most fun time. And it really connected me back to the roots of, the first instrument I ever played, which was drum set. And it was great. And the synergy between the front and battery was just so great. Like I know a lot of groups where one group thinks they're better than the other, and they don't really connect as not only an ensemble but like as people as well. And being able to see the actual connection and synergy that the battery feeds off of the front and vice versa, like I think that's just a great thing that a lot of groups should strive for.
Yeah, that's just kind of like an overall tip that I would have for anyone considering marching outside of high school or anything, or even in high school. If you can get along with the people that you're marching with, like the results are always going to be better. Just because if you guys can connect on the same level, then you will be on like the same what's the word, basically you guys feed off of each other's energy. So like whatever energy you put out is like what you're going to get out of it. So if there's negative energy going around, you're going to get negative results. If you have positive energy, from the start of rehearsal to the end of rehearsal, even to outside of rehearsal, just hanging out, like you guys are going to perform better together because you're more comfortable with the people around you. So that's going to make you, more confident in the way you play, the way you rehearse. And so like, that's kind of just the biggest tip that I have for anyone going into an ensemble is like, really get to know the people that you're marching with and, try to, get close with everyone. And because like, it's good for the marching experience, like being able to like play clean and everything like that. But this is also going to be like something that like you look back on and like those are the memories that you're going to have. So like might as well get to know the people that you're marching with and vibe with them on the same level.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt you, Dylan, but,
no, you're all good.
Fun fact, my audition for Civitas this past season, I actually didn't know it was my audition because it was like mid-February, and I was talking to Caleb and Faith, and there's a rack spot opening. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna go to one of the rehearsals, see how it goes, and maybe I'll audition. And so I remember BT, he was just like, hey, Christian, this is your new rack person. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll be playing rack. That's nice. And then at the very end of the week, I got handed a contract, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And it was my 8th grade year in middle school, and I'll have to wait till college till I can do it again. But yeah, I mean, just vibing with everyone else. That was probably the best part about Civitas. Especially the instruction. Instruction was pretty good this year. But the vibe, I felt the vibe was amazing. Better than any other group I've been in. Not to say that my high school vibe is bad, but like any other group outside of high school. There we go.
Well, I will say that like you really do see the difference from like high school groups to independent groups. because when you're in high school, everyone's at that age where, they want to be the best. So, along the way, you'll probably end up stepping on a few toes here and there because, like everyone wants to be the battery captain or everyone wants to be, the fastest drummer or whatever. And it's just, high school is just a very competitive environment. But when you go to independent, like an independent level, the mindset is more so, what's best for the group. So, everyone's obviously there, to compete with other groups. They're not there to compete with each other. So, it's kind of like a maturity level thing. Like once you get to independent, like in an independent group, your overall goal is, how can you improve as a group? So I think that's like where a lot of people, they'll see the difference from, going from a high school program to an independent program.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to shout out BT Brian Turner, because he's he listens to the podcast, and I really appreciate that. But also for just making a group that's like such a powerhouse of not only having great show design and music, but like having the ability to improve themselves. Because in like high school band, you'll have those certain people that just do band because they've just been in it and don't actually care about improving and stuff. Where with Civitas, like it's like everybody who's there wants to be there and like actually care about improving and getting a better score. And it's just great that like he supports his students no matter what their endeavor is. And I think that's a great thing to have within a person who leads such a great program. Like it's just awesome. But so obviously COVID is still a thing, and WGI announced that they're having a virtual season. And although I don't like it, I understand it because a lot of different states are going through different things and their guidelines are different. So it's hard to really appease the entire country and even international groups because there's so many different situations going around the country. But with DCI, do you think it's possible that they're gonna have a season this upcoming year? Because something that people don't actually realize is that the best place to be for COVID is open outdoor spaces and with sunlight, because sunlight almost kills it immediately. And I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on whether or not DCI will have a season or how they're going to overcome this challenge.
After marching for 4 years doing drum corps, I think it is not a good idea at all to expose these kids to COVID. I think that's a terrible idea because while you're out rehearsing on the field, dude, all the stuff that happens off the field is so just like compact, people close together, tight environments. Like it is, stuff spreads so quickly without there being like, a pandemic around. Like, cause everyone eats off the same food truck, everyone showers together, everyone walks through the hallways together. And then even after spring training, like when everyone gets on the buses together, like those buses are so cramped as it is. And the sleeping areas are already like, sometimes there's a little bit of space, but I mean, getting into the schools and walking through the hallways, like, dude, you're constantly crammed. Like when it comes to drum corps, you're never alone. You really don't get any alone time. You're like with everyone for like 90 days straight. I think it'd be a terrible idea for them to have the season with everything still going on. That's just my opinion, because in 2018 there was a sickness. There was like some bug that went around. I think people in our color guard in 2018 caught it first, but then it started spreading to the horn line, and it spread so quickly. They got it from another group. They got it from like cadets who got it from like academy, and it spread. People were like sick and like throwing up, and like it's not even as deadly as the coronavirus could be. So in my opinion, I think it'd be a terrible decision on DCI to have the season with the pandemic being so prevalent as it is. If If the cases went down, then maybe, but honestly, I don't really see the season happening, unfortunately. That's just how I see it.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty important thing to highlight because it's easy to think about, you know, being outdoors and performing and stuff, but like the things that people don't see, it's like, you know, you are correct completely that, you know, on the buses, it's always extremely tight and, you know, everyone's in each other's personal spaces and stuff. So,
Yeah, I
you know,
don't know if you guys remember. I think it was 2015. Yeah, that was the game on year for Cavies. Um, they showed up to Night Beat, and there was a sickness going around their core. But well, they didn't end up competing. They just performed an exhibition with everyone that was healthy enough to perform. But it was almost half of the field like was gone because of like whatever sickness was going around their core. Like they had to, have those people, sit out, to recover, or they even had to send some of them home just because like they wouldn't be able to like recover fast enough. Um, but yeah, with how highly contagious the coronavirus is, like if something like that happened, in one core, uh, back in 2015, like I just don't think that it's a safe idea to have that you know that possibility happen for every core. And then this like that was post audition season, obviously, because like they had already had their numbers and everything, but audition season hasn't even hit yet. So like if they were to hold in-person auditions, that's just spreading to more people that aren't even that wouldn't even be competing in the season. It's just, I don't know, it's just a high risk.
yeah.
And obviously it'd be very hard to like organize stuff like that because like a lot of schools can't hold extracurricular activities or non-school related events at their schools anymore, just to prevent the spread. So I feel like it as hopeful as I wish to be, like I wish there was going to be a 2021 season, but just looking at like everything that goes into making a season, like it's just, there's a lot more to it than just what 100 people going out onto a field and practicing and performing. Like there's like Dakota said, like when you're off the field, like you're almost always with other people and like pretty close quarters too. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I totally get that. And, you know, again, as hopeful as I wish, you know, there would be a season, you know, I think DCI probably will make the right call and cancel the season or somehow do a virtual thing, which I mean, I don't see how that's possible, but you know, yeah, I totally agree. I don't think there will be a season.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to say to it. But so what are your guys' plans like for the future? Like after college, after drum corps, all of that.
I graduate this December. I haven't graduated yet, and I think at the start, you said that I had. I'm so close, but I'm not there yet, almost. And I think I just forgot to say. But after I graduate, I hope to become, a sound engineer at a recording studio, hopefully, and do some gigging on the side. If I could talk about like my aspirations, I would like to be, a singer-songwriter, produce my own music, gig on the side, teach a little on the side. But honestly, with COVID still going around, it's really hard to predict the future. So honestly, whatever opportunities present themselves, that's going to determine, what I do post graduation.
Yeah, yeah. What about you, CJ?
well, I'm not currently in school right now, but my whole life basically, since drums isn't really a well indoor band or DCI isn't really an option right now. I've kind of just been focusing on work. So right now I'm a traveling trainer, a traveling training leader for this company in my town called Clutch Coffee Bar. And so we just opened up a new store in Winston-Salem a little less than a month ago. And so we have a few more coming up. And so I'll be, traveling like on the road. I mean, it'll be kind of like, being able to tour again. So, I mean, like that's kind of why I'm enjoying doing it, is because I still get to, explore, but, it's for my job. But I think after my first experience getting to open the first store outside of my hometown, I've discovered that I do enjoy, like, I wouldn't say teaching. I enjoy coaching people. I like being able to, I do like teaching them. I like teaching them, certain ways to do things, more efficient ways to do things, but also like I enjoy being, a leader to, people that, may not have as much confidence, in what they're doing, giving them, advice on the side. But yeah, leadership is kind of just, always been something that I've been passionate about. Like I was bass drum section leader for Civitas this past season, 2019. Let's see what else. I was bass drum section leader 2016, 2015, and 2014 at Fusion. I don't know. It's just like I always like being that person that people can go to when they need help. So in the future, or like the next couple months or so, like that's kind of what I've been focusing on is my job. Eventually I would like to get back into drums, teaching drums. I was a bass tech at Morrisville, so, but obviously with COVID and everything, haven't been able to teach bass drums. So once things are a little bit better, I'd like to go back to that. But in the meantime, my only drum related thing right now is just getting myself to playing drum set again. Eventually I'd like to be in a band, but I don't know how likely that would be. It's very hard to find people with the same music taste as me.
Yeah, for sure. I totally get that. And yeah, so thank you guys very much for listening to this podcast. If you want to find these guys on Instagram, you can find CJ at CJeremyn, CJEREMYN. You can find Dakota Groves at Dakota Groves. You can find us on Instagram at the Music Room 5, underscores between each word. Make sure to check out our merch shop. It's on Redbubble. We'll link it. And thank you guys very much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoy it, leave a like, comment, all that stuff. And be on the lookout for future episodes. And thank you guys very much for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.